So while we are creating value for our customers, we have to look at how we manage our internal customer relationships. So in topic 3, we're going to go over this. So we have to understand our customers, regardless of their internal or external. But we're going to focus on the internal ones right now. So there's a 4-step process to this. First, we have to define the buying center. Who influences buying decisions? So if our requisition is coming from the marketing department, who is influencing that buying decision? Well, is it the customer, the actual end user that's influencing marketing, and marketing is then putting in a purchase requisition based on that influence? Or is it maybe an executive of the company who is influencing marketing, which has now resulted in that purchase requisition? So once you have an idea of that, then you can move on to the psychological intelligence that you can have on this whole process now by assessing the source of power. Who are the important decision makers? Is it the end user, the customer that's external to your organization that's influencing it all? Or is it an executive from your company? Is it a partner company? And what is their source of power? If it's an executive within your company, well, they probably have a lot of power. If it's a customer, who knows? It might be a small customer, it might be a big customer. It could be a partner company. Is it a big deal that you satisfy this customer? But also, how can you use that power effectively to make sure this process works? Because we have something called referred power that we can use to help make the process smoother. Because if you say it's for an executive of your company, people might make sure that you're taken care of because you're doing something for an executive. But if you say, oh, I'm doing this for the marketing department, they may not be that interested in helping you because it's for the marketing department. So we also have to evaluate their motivations. So how are influencers measured? How do you influence, or how do they measure that influence? Well, the executive, how do you measure their influence? Is that executive in your chain of command? So are they your boss's boss's boss? Or is it where your executive who's in your chain of command plays golf with that executive? Could it be that motivation? And which benefit classes are most important? What benefit are they going to get from this? Benefits come in many different ways. It doesn't always have to be a physical thing. It could be money, which is physical. It could be, hey, somebody stands up at a company meeting and says, hey, John Doe did a really good job, or Jane Doe did a really good job. Everybody give them a round of applause. Could be something as simple as that. That's a benefit. And how do those benefits compare to the risks? Somebody who doesn't like to be recognized or called out on things may not want the public recognition. They might just want their bosses to stop by and say, hey, you did a really good job. That could make somebody's day. And that can motivate them to do a better job and work harder. But that public recognition might get them to pull back and not do a good job. This is where that psychological intelligence comes in. And then we have to determine the perceptions. So these key decision makers perceive us. How do they view us? Do they view us as the ones that always get the job done? Or do they view us as somebody that they have to deal with because we're the only ones that can do it? Do they even know that we exist? Are we in the basement of the company and no one ever comes to say hi? Or are we right on the front lines where everybody is coming and going? How do people see us? So the buying center, we have a lot of different buying centers here. So we have an initiator, gatekeepers, influencers, deciders, purchasers, and users. So initiator, they're the one who starts this whole process off by saying, yes, this is what we need. So they identify the purchase need to be made. The gatekeeper, they control access to that decision maker. For example, this could be a receptionist, a secretary, an assistant. Could be a assistant manager. Could be anybody that keeps you from getting to that decision maker. Could be another management level before you get up to the person who says yes or no. Could be anybody. Influencers. This could be someone that everybody listens to. This is not like one of those social media influencers. It's somebody who people listen to because they value that person's opinion. For example, could be somebody who's been at the company for 30 years that knows how things go. And they say, yeah, that's a great idea, and now everybody's on board. Or if they say, no, that's not a good idea, now everybody's against it. They're influencing the decision because of their experience. And influencing could be based on their position, could be based on their leadership, could be all sorts of different categories on how they influence people. The deciders. These are the people with that final decision-making authority. They're the ones who might sign off on it with their actual signature. They're the ones who might be saying yes or no. And at your organization, this might be at different levels. It could be that you have this authority. Or it could be that you have to go up several levels of management before you can get to somebody who has that decision-making authority. Now, when you're first starting off in a purchasing career, you might be the purchaser. You're the one that's actually making the purchase, the actual buying process. Not a bad place to start, but you get to learn. You get to see what's going on. Don't just put your head down in your cubicle or your office and don't pay attention. Just keep your ears open, learn. That's how you can learn how to advance. And the user is the person who is going to actually receive what you purchased. They're the end user of the item that you're purchasing. So the buying center is pretty important to know who fills these roles because each role is influencing your purchase. So we have our sources of power here, our sources of consequences of power. So we have on the left-hand side, the types of power, and on the right-hand side, the reaction of the power to the power. So we have the reference or attraction power. These are the people that can influence because you like them or you respect them. If you're one of these people where people like you or they respect you, you're going to get commitment out of people, even though you might not have actual legitimate power. You might not have a position of authority. And then there's this next one here, expert power. This is because you are an expert. You have the expertise, whether you actually have it or you have the reputation of being an expert. People are going to go with it because of that knowledge. So they're going to they're going to give you commitment as a reaction. So then you have the actual legitimate or status power. These are the people that have the title of like manager, supervisor, team leader. They actually are assigned power by their position. So they influence their people because of their position or authority in the company. So they may have compliance. People are complying because they want to keep their job. Then we have reward power. So we reward people. You can reward them with money. You can give them a psychological, thank you, a congratulations, or political. You can give somebody a benefit that somebody else doesn't have. People will work to get those kind of rewards. So you'll get compliance because people will work hard to get that reward. And that's about it. So they comply to get that. Then we have our final one, where we actually coerce our people through punishment. You either do it or you'll be punished. And you're going to get people who resist it. They may do it, but they're going to resist you. They may not do it exactly how you want it. They might do a bad job, but they're going to resist it. This is the type of power you want to use as a last resort. Because overall you're going to have negative results. So what motivates people? Well, we need to figure out how it gets done. So we have to identify what we want to measure. Because if we measure it, it's going to get done. For example, if you tell an assembly line worker they have to get 100 units done in a day, well, they're going to work to get 100 units done in a day. So hint number 2 here, what benefits do colleagues value most? Well, ask them. Just simply ask them. Do they want maybe a bonus? Maybe they want a day off. Maybe they want casual Fridays. Or maybe they just want to have, in the break room, a PlayStation 5 or some other game console. Could be something simple like that. So ask your colleagues, and they'll tell you. And they'll tell you what they don't want also. Also ask that question. And number 3 here, what are the risks? So when you ask your colleagues, what do you want? It's like, and they tell you a PlayStation 5 in the break room. Well, what's the risk of putting that there? Well, you might have someone that dominates the time on that system. They might be late coming off their break. You know, the equipment might go missing. Equipment might break. All these things are potential risks that may happen. They may not happen. Depends on your company and the culture you support at your company. So evaluate their motivations. And when you're in doubt, ask. It's that simple. So what benefits do your colleagues benefit most? So if they're looking at a product, your service as a department, well, some companies actually charge for their service because they might be broken up into different companies under an umbrella company. So there might be a charge for the services. There might be a quality, depending on what's being done. On-time delivery, reliable on-time delivery, agile or responsiveness, how quickly can they adjust if something needs to be changed? Innovation or features, after-sales service, and impact on operating costs. All these are product benefits. What about a process benefit? So is the purchasing process transparent and easy to use? If you were to ask your colleagues about the purchasing process, would they tell you that it's easy, or would they tell you that it's extremely difficult and they don't want to bother with it? Well, if they tell you it's difficult, ask them how they would make it easier. Maybe that's something that you can bring back to your department, the purchasing department, and maybe you can try to make it easier for them. Who knows? And then we have some personal benefits here. Will the decision strengthen the influencer's identity or self-concept? So the person who might have a say in a purchase, well, will that decision help them or hurt them? What kind of impact would they have on that person? Will the decision enhance the influence performance rating, promotion potential, or standing with top management? Well, the higher up the chain you go, the more you want to have those positive things. So if the person is a manager and they're trying to get up into senior management, they may want to have more wins when it comes time for their performance review than losses. So by telling them no, that might not be a very good thing for them. But you might be able to say, well, we can't do it this way, but we can do it this way. Because of these things, we have to do it this way. You're telling them no, they can't do it the way they wanted, but you're telling them yes. And that's important. You're telling them yes if you do it this way, which they'll learn from. And when they come back to you, they'll know that you're working with them. And you're the guy to go to, or you're the person to go to help them out. And they'll remember that. So when it comes time, maybe they'll be an influencer on a promotion, a bonus, something. They might help you out. And will the decision boost the others' liking and respect for the influencer? So, influencers, depending on the type of person, they like to be popular, don't they? So, who knows if this decision will increase their popularity or social standing or not. So finally, we have another 2x2 square. So this is how you can have other departments, other internal customers rate your department. So it's a simple grid here, simple graph. You got your positive and negative. So you have how do you see our people on the left-hand side. So it's either positive or negative. And how do you see our services? Hopefully it's in the upper right-hand corner, the both positive section. If it's in the lower left-hand corner, both negative, well, you got a lot of work to do. If it's somewhere in the other two boxes, the other quadrants, figure out how you can get that into the upper right corner, upper right quadrant. And if you can do that, you'll be golden because you're working with your customers and they realize that. So next we're going to talk on how to leverage our resources. And that's important when we're trying to meet our customers' need and trying to also be competitive in our marketplace.